Welcome back to our BNI San Diego podcast. Today, I'm joined not just by one amazing person, but by two amazing person. This is a threefold podcast. Three of us. Welcome, gentlemen. Who do we have with us? We have Ray Falvey. Ray Falvey is our area director, soon to be our senior area director. And then we've got David Jacobson, who is also one of our area directors. We have three area directors. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today, or joining me today.
Oh,
Yeah.
My first time on the podcast.
Your first time on the podcast. Wonderful. We're going to have a great time.
Or were you keeping him off on a...
There was a reason. Okay. We want to bring him in slow, you know.
Okay. I used to be on like 50 podcasts ago, but he said no.
Yeah, Abby was the one that was kind of holding up, up on things.
Quality director.
That's it. Yeah. So today we're actually talking about an important topic on leadership/support transition. So every year in October, we transition to a whole new support team. Now, for those of you who have been in BNI for a while, if you remember but just 10 years ago, we used to transition every 6 months. And one of the things that we noticed with that every 6 month transition, as a leader, you don't even get into the role until your fourth or fifth month, right? You don't even get into the swing of things.
You're just kind of figuring everything out.
And then we would change up again. So now we've got it yearly, but I want to touch on the importance of leadership and why it's important to step up in a leadership. Now, when I say leadership, I'm not referring to the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. I'm talking about the entire team, whether you're leadership or support. As leaders, why is it important to step up into a role in your chapter? Why is it important to take on a role in a chapter?
Well, one of the biggest things, right, when we decide to become entrepreneurs, we first walk into a position. It's probably because we were really good at it at a larger company.
Yeah.
We might have even served in some type of supervisory management role. That's my role. I was really good at design, before I ever stepped in and started my own company. And we thought we were going to be awesome at it. I thought I was going to just be a rock star because, I was able to, be a great manager, great director when I was there and all these things. But you realize as an entrepreneur very, very quickly that if you're not providing some type of leadership for your own business, running it, doing all these other things, you're going to struggle for many years. Or you struggle for many years while you start to develop these types of roles. Well,
because would you say that leadership is something you have to develop?
It is.
You're not just like born. I'm like, hey, I naturally lead people. It's something you develop into.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, even when I was working in corporate America, I didn't pick myself to be a leader at the time. I didn't imagine being somebody that could lead other people. It was someone else recognized that in me.
Yeah.
And they noticed some type of characteristic. I'm still asking that question to this day, but something that, they saw in me that said that I could step up.
You grow into the role.
You do. A lot of times you have to grow into something you weren't prepared to grow into before. And somebody recognized something with you that it was like, yeah, this person could really be a great leader. And I love that about what we do is, we've started to learn over the years how to recognize that potential, recognize that there is somebody that's there. And that's the progression that we do in this amazing organization. Someone sees something in us we didn't see ourselves.
Ooh, that's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
When you have, when you have someone that is looking at you. One of the things that I realized years ago, as a matter of fact, Dr. Meisner, the founder of BNI, shared with me many years ago, Ed, people are always watching. And to your point, when we're watching, or when a director comes into a chapter, or when we hear from other members in that room, hey, hey, director, hey, Ed, hey, Ray, hey, David, hey, Jen, you should look at this person. What they're doing currently in the chapter, we need more of that. We need that as a leader. So being able to be recognized in a chapter and have someone being willing to go, hey, you need to look at this person. Keep an eye out for this person for the next leadership term.
And one of the things that Ray mentioned with that is while they grow in B&I, that helps them grow in their business also. You learn how to be a leader in the B&I chapter, that you're running your own business. That makes you a better business owner, because now you can take these tools back to your own business. And probably for most people subconsciously, they're not even thinking about doing that.
Well, and to me, that's an added benefit. One of the things I learned very early on, as a matter of fact, when this airs, I will have hit my 20th anniversary in B&I.
Wow.
And over those years, I have learned, and I forgot what I had learned. You know, you just have those moments where you just kind of like, it's gone. Let's keep talking and I'll remember in just a moment.
No, and
live on air, you got to love it.
One of the really amazing things, right? So we've talked about this before. I stepped into leadership before I even knew what I was stepping into, right? And or stepping through and kind of getting that all figured out.
Sometimes it feels like you're stepping into it.
Yeah. And in this case.
So Ray, tell us, because you haven't told the audience, when did you get first for leadership?
So I've been in B&I for over 12 years now. That's crazy. And basically stepped in on February, as you had mentioned at that time. We were 6-month terms. So all of a sudden, 1 month in, the incoming president is like, hey, Ray, I heard you were in some other organization and you had been in leadership in that organization. Would you be open to being the vice president? And me not knowing what the vice president of B&I does at all was like, sure, that sounds like a great idea.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. And, so that was a learning curve. So, and it also gave me some valuable insight, right? So
Peek
now,
behind the curtain.
How many years later, right? I'm 12 years later in B&I, almost over a decade as a director. I realize now the vice president role is very operations based. And what I learned in that short 6 months helped me run my business and my operations to a whole other level. It was at the right time in my business progression that I started to think about, well, am I taking care of these things in my business? Am I looking at the numbers, right? Or am I just kind of going through the motions and still trying to figure this out? Even though I was 5 years into my business by the time I stepped into that, I learned more about operational processes through this. And I also realized, how key of a role this is. I think that's why it's been near and dear to me, and been appreciative when you asked me to step into that side of being the area director. Is now I'm kind of teaching other people how to operate, how to deal with so many key things that they're going to deal with within their own business in terms of client and staff acquisitions. That's some of the key things that are there. Running a chapter that we always talk about, the leadership team runs a business.
Oh, absolutely.
We have entities that are million to multi-million dollar entities throughout B&I San Diego and throughout the globe, right? And these individuals are now learning how to run a multi-million dollar operation.
That just reminded me now what I was going to say earlier when I had when it left, was what I love about B&I that I learned years ago is everything that we're learning in B&I and in leadership roles, in support roles. We can literally leave our chapter, walk out the door, go across the street into our own business, and apply every one of those same principles that we've learned. David, how long you've been in leadership? Multiple times.
Oh yeah, more than I probably can count.
And how long have you been in B&I now?
So I'm coming up on my 21st year.
Whoa. 21 years.
Yeah. Drank the Kool-Aid pretty hard,
Yeah.
I guess.
And how's it been for you?
Oh, it's been fantastic. It's been fantastic for my business. It's been fantastic personally. Believe it or not, I am a real big introvert. My weekend would be sitting on the couch, maybe watching TV or playing Sudoku on my phone.
Just by yourself.
Just by myself, not talking to anybody. That's sort of like a dream.
So how does someone like that go into a leadership role?
So you start with BNI with a group of people who are your friends.
Very true.
They're all looking for your success. They're all there because they want not just themselves to do better.
Yeah.
Obviously, they want to do better themselves, but they want me to do better. They want you to do better in the chapter. And when you get that mindset that the people are out there to help you, it's easier to talk to them. One of the things that led me is I'm on the board of directors for the insurance agents and brokers.
Yeah.
And we do if not the largest, the second largest convention for insurance in San Diego. We run it in San Diego, but for the whole state.
Oh, wow.
And they look at our convention, the other Los Angeles and Sacramento, and they come look at our convention because our convention is so well run. I'm the key. I run the presentations for lunch.
Oh, wow.
In front of a room of 700 people.
So for an introvert, someone who's doing Sudoku on the weekends by himself, to be in a role like that, how did you get there?
Would never happen outside of BNI. Because the lessons that I learned for everybody in my chapter wants me to succeed. Well, everybody in this room of 650, 700 people, they want to see me succeed also.
Absolutely.
And the second thing that I learned was nobody knows you made a mistake unless you point it out to them.
Yeah, we're the ones, we're always the hardest on ourselves.
Can I go back to a point that
Please.
Ray kind of mentioned about the chapters being run by the members, and it's volunteers. I think that's an important part, that the leadership isn't being paid for this. They're getting paid for the exposure they're getting, the visibility.
They're amplifying their visibility.
Amplifying their credibility, hopefully it leads to more profitability. But everybody in the leadership is in the leadership because they want to see the other members in the chapter succeed. And we forget about that. A lot of people go, oh, I don't want to be on leadership. It's so much work. Well, what are you doing to help out your chapter? This is a vital area that we can help the other members of the chapter. And it helps us incredibly. But I did want to glance over that, where everybody's in this chapter and all the work that we're doing, that we're doing this as sort of a,
pay it forward. Pay it forward.
Yeah, pay it forward. The giver's gain.
Yeah.
This is this is our whole point of being a P&I, giver's gain, that we're giving back to our chapter by stepping into leadership.
So, and I love that, right? Because giver's gain, it's our key core value. I always like to touch on that there are times when it's okay to be selfish in BNI as well. And from a selfish perspective, if I'm a member in a chapter, if I was doing it selfishly, again, not completely, there's obviously I'm living in giver's gain because that's what we're about in the chapter and everything. But I, as a selfish individual, and when I say selfish, I'm not talking about the negative side of selfishness.
Sure.
But rather the what's in it for me type thing. If I'm someone who's thinking about stepping into a role, what are some of those selfish things that can actually benefit me as an individual that was in the audience but now willing to step up for those roles?
Well, other than visibility.
I mean, the again, amplification of visibility, not just here's the other thing, and I apologize because I know you were going to say something. Not just in your own chapter, but you become, as a leader in your chapter, as support, as leadership, you become visible with the entire region with some of the things that we do as a region.
Well, and so there are so many things, right, that there are value to it. But at the same time, we talk about this with leadership a lot. It's when you run the chapter effectively, you run it efficiently, all of those types of things, it's actually, we're beyond the visibility stage, you know, and I can say this straight out, you know, being a leader multiple times within my earliest stages of BNI, you get to that credibility stage. Right?
Oh, much quicker.
And so for our audience that is just coming into BNI, you know, we talk about these three things, these three stages of business and what it is called visibility, credibility, and profitability. And with visibility, right, it's people recognizing our business and how we set ourselves apart from our competitors, right? So that's that stage where I'm not just some random web designer, but I'm the right type of web designer for you. David's not just some insurance guy that's trying to sell you something. He's the guy you need to know. He's the guy that you need to work with because he has that business acumen. He has his clients, you know, what they need right at the top of mind all of the time and all that stuff. So that's visibility. Credibility is where we really get to that stage where we are that top-notch person. We are going to handle the business and all that stuff. And it shows by handling, yet again, as I mentioned before, a multi-million-dollar entity. So if we're doing great, if we raise the value of all of the seats within the chapter, if we're showing all of those types of things, we're showing our referral partners, man, this individual has got our best interests at heart, but also this individual can get the job done.
And what does that do for your visibility as not just as the president or vice president or secretary treasurer or support, but you as the business owner? You know, again, going back to what I said a little while ago, Dr. Meisner taught me years ago that people are always watching. They're watching how you do things. Are you coming in late to the meeting every week? Are you organized as a president? Are you, you know, running, are things running on time? All of those little things hint to how you're going to be with my mom, with my best friend, with my client that I'm referring to you. When you run a spot on meeting, when you get things back on track, because let's face it, every once in a while things get off track in a meeting with people around, but when you're able to bring it back into line and move it forward, all of these little things tell our fellow referral partners in the room, this is someone who I want to refer my customers to by the way that they run this meeting.
Sure. Well, the way they show up, not just running the meeting, how they show up.
Yeah.
They're showing up in their role. Are you a visitor host? How are you greeting the visitors? Are we doing, and the secretary treasurer, I'm the director of secretary treasurer, so this is kind of near and dear to my heart. How are we doing the follow-up?
But
these all
David,
I'm
so busy. I'm so busy. I didn't get time to follow up with that member.
Well,
what does that say? That tells you that if I give you a referral, are you too busy to follow up with that referral?
So it goes to your point. Not all visibility leads to credibility.
Correct. It can go the opposite way as well.
You can hurt yourself really bad.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up because it just reminded me of the idea that when we're as leaders, when we come in and we're running things effectively and we're running the BNI meeting, we're not running an insurance meeting, we're not running a real estate meeting, we're not running a web development meeting, we're running a BNI meeting. And when we run it effectively, it shows people how we go about doing things. And on the flip side of that, when people come in and they don't recognize, is this BNI? Is this a BNI meeting or is this something else? It also tells the people in the room, is this the person that I want to refer to?
Like the story Ivan tells, he's in Austria or someplace, and the guy who invites him, it's all in German. The guy invites him, says, "Oh, and this comes next." And Ivan goes, "Well, I hope it does."
Right, because it's how the meeting flows.
How the meeting's supposed to be, whether it's in Farsi or
Doesn't matter what
German or
language. Yeah.
English.
And it's the ability to not only run an effective meeting, it's the ability to allow the flow to go and to get it back on track when things, and be able to hand it off to your counterparts as well. Not that, as the president, I'm the Bugs Bunny, right? That does, it's all the bases. I'm doing everything, but you have counterparts that you transition to as well. And in our business, those same things happen. In insurance, are you the only person that someone ever interacts with?
Oh man, I'd never get anything done if it was.
Right? You have a team of people that do different things. So you're able to hand it off and you hand it off successfully and smooth so that things can get done.
When I was president, that was the main thing that I learned was delegating.
And that's a tough one for me.
Yeah,
I am horrible at it.
But you can't run the whole BNI chapter, and it taught me a lesson on how to be more effective.
So let's touch on that. As leaders in a chapter, because both of you, myself as well, have been a leader at some point. What's one of your biggest takeaways? One thing that really has helped you with your momentum as a business owner, if you can think back to that.
So, as I mentioned, I've served in multiple roles, and there was basically a year after I stepped away as the vice president, I stepped in as the president for the first time. And it's interesting because at that time, I believe, yes, it was now a 1 year term. And so I stepped in as the president, had an amazing team around me. And I think that was probably my lesson from the first time. So if you have the right support team, if you have the right people that are supporting you, they raise you up too. And
what's that saying?
It takes a village?
No, all rising tides raise all ships.
Yeah. And, so there was an amazing team that we had supporting us. My best friend was the vice president. I knew I could count on him to do what we needed to do to get the job done within the chapter and do what we needed to do. And we did. We had a chapter that for the very first time ever, not just hit one size level, but hit two size levels.
Wow.
It had never seen before. And so what I remember, one of my biggest critics, Brian, if you're seeing this, you know what I'm talking about. So one of my critics at the time felt like I was pushing and, really going into place. And that's what the president has to do.
Yeah. No
No matter what, the president has to have a vision in mind. And even though the seas might take us off course, that the role of the president is to keep us moving in the direction we need to move, even if it, and
Absolutely.
we had a tide, very first month, we had a tide that threw off everything. And you're laughing because you remember what this tide was, but it did. And it scared the chapter, this move. And we thought that it was going to affect us for a long time. It didn't, by keeping the vision in mind, keeping the direction there, and having a great team that was reminding me that
having a support team is an effective support team behind you is everything.
And it was huge because even when I questioned the path away from the public, I had that support team. We're getting this right direction. We're in the right direction. And so this critic 1 year later came up to me and said, "You're a great president." And I know I was probably one of your most vocal critics. And I know I asked you many times why we were doing what we were doing, but thank you for doing that, and thank you for holding the course, because my business has increased by 33%.
You're gonna love
since
that.
you stepped, since you took us in the direction we did, which we gained 13 members. So, so we had a very positive course, and that chapter has never known below that number again. And that's huge. There, so that was my recognition.
Nice.
And he hired me too, which was a nice kind of extra caveat as well.
Hey, Ray, sometimes people don't understand what you're doing because they've never been in leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself right there.
You mentioned real quickly, peering behind the curtain.
Yeah.
People don't understand business B&I because they haven't taken the time to learn about it. You don't need to step into leadership. You can learn everything about running a B&I chapter from the chapter education units, the podcasts. There's people who are telling you how to run your chapter.
Hey, by listening to this podcast,
this one is it's certainly one of the best. So, not just because Ray and I are on it.
So, David, for you, what in being in leadership over the years, what's something that's really propelled you as a professional?
I mentioned it before, the delegation. I have the same problem that you do. Very hard for me to delegate, and there would be a lot of things that in policy processing. So my role is sales. So I go out and find clients, get the information, bring it back, usually do some rating, usually do most of the rating. And then because I have such a short attention span, when the policies came in, it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to take care of this because it came to my email and I know my assistant's busy and I'll just get it into the system and then it'll be done with and take something off of her plate. But that's not my role. So to delegate that frees me up to talk to other clients. Maybe not even new clients, but clients who are having problems. If I'm doing the processing that my assistant is supposed to be doing, then I don't have the ability to talk to my clients and solve their problems. And the same thing comes back to B&I. When I was in leadership, I needed to be able to be in leadership and to help the members if a problem came up, to explain why we're doing something. Why are we doing what we're doing? Well, the end result is 13 new members. But people don't see that all the time when you start off on that journey. And so that's what I learned from. And I've been in all the roles except for mentor coordinator. So I've done education, I've done vice president, secretary, treasurer, president, all of them multiple times, educational coordinator. And all of these help propel the chapter forward because you can see where you want to be. And the leadership team is you mentioned a sail, your boat.
The engine.
The engine to get you to where you're going, to keep propelling you forward.
And on the selfish side of that, going back to you as an individual, look what it's done for you as a professional, and it's how it made you grow. Your role with the insurance conferences and doing those types of things, being able to be a better speaker, being able to posture correctly in front of clients and those types of things. All of these things help with the rest of our the other elements of our lives.
Oh, sure. I was in business for 25 years before I joined B&I, and B&I represents somewhere between 30 and 35% of my overall business.
Gotta love that.
So
terrific. Well, gentlemen, I know that we can go on, and particularly as we were talking, and we may come back on another podcast for this one. You had mentioned in the area of delegation, because that's one that I struggle with as well, and we want to do it all. And there's a great book right back here. I don't know if you guys can see this. It is right there. It is a book called Who Not How by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. Fantastic book. It's actually a 3-part series, but it's the who, not how. We as professionals, we get stuck in figuring out the how, and we need to figure out the who can do it. That's the element of delegation. Sometimes in a B&I chapter, it happens as well. Whether you're the president or vice president, the vice president oversees the membership committee. Sometimes we take on, if I'm the vice president and I just want to get something done because it's not being done fast enough, what do? We take on the roles of the membership committee. And I think another great podcast that we'll come back to is learning how to stay in your lane. Mm-hmm. As a professional, you have a team of people. allow them to develop and grow. We as leaders, and that's another important element. We as leaders are always growing. Who are the people around us that we're bringing with us? So something to think about for today and for this week. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining. It's always an absolute pleasure. Looking forward to having you back. I'm a little tongue-tied today. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe because I'm around two great ones. A little bit tongue-tied today, but thank you for joining us. Ray, thank you for being here with us today.
Absolutely.
And David, thank you for joining us again.
My absolute pleasure.
And for our listeners, we look forward to being back with you next week with another amazing podcast with wonderful guests, whether it's one or two or even more. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
This episode of the BNI San Diego podcast has been brought to you by Cruise Productions, a San Diego-based video production company and proud BNI member. You can find us at the intersection where business and creativity meet, or online at cruiseproductionsinc.com.